or do we want them to stay outside the city and have all those teachers not pay income tax?
Well, we don't have to not let them go here and not give them water and sewer, but we can tell them we don't like the spot you're putting it in.
Understood.
We can give it to them. and not
Understood.
like
I'm
it.
just saying that's the next thing after this is going
Yeah,
to be
I mean,
water.
it makes sense, we let them into the city. But it also makes sense, letting them know we're part of the city and we don't like what you're doing officially, and letters going to you and going to the state.
Yeah.
We'll tell them.
And the letter I wrote back in April, I mentioned in there that LUC's transportation study that they did had this route between 55 going south, basically that whole southern section of leg, as the highest capacity, over capacity road in Champaign County. We all know that. And it was in that letter early on, just be aware of that this is a heavily traversed area. So.
What's the consensus of the citizens in Urbana School District that they passed a levy? I mean, they're getting kind of pushed up against the wall here with the whole levy thing and getting the money spent and doing what they got to do. That seems like that's the loudest voice somewhere. They're not doing what they said they would do originally, and this is my common sense way of thinking. As usual, they're not doing what they said they did. They told people that everybody agreed and passed a levy for. There's not something that they can do there's everybody in favor of it, and they think it's a good idea and let it go forward.
Most people don't even know what they're doing.
Right.
What's going
Us
on.
included.
And the
that's
people
been
that
part
do
of our
know,
issues.
it seems like there's various little groups that are opposed, but there's no one person you can go to and say, we want to do something. This little group is saying, I don't like it, I don't like this, I don't like this, but nobody to put it all together.
There's no way to, I don't even know what the word would be, retract that levy or do something because of, I don't know. I'm just asking. Or whether that's even needs to be, it's like the people of Urbana and Urbana schools are.
Would that letter to the state have any implication on that too?
I think we better just stick with basics.
Yeah, I know that. What I'm saying is,
Start.
no. What I'm saying is, the state looks at that, it's like, hey, hold on.
You have to remember, you're talking about two different state agencies with different authority.
They'll look at it and say, oh, that's nice.
Left hand, right hand.
Put it down and move on.
Let's clap.
Well, that's the frustration though, because the community as a whole wants to go to school. The problem is that most of the community feels like they haven't been part of this process. Me as well as several other people sit on the puppet board to design the school and all this other stuff, and it really was the puppet board. The locations, none of this stuff has involved really anybody from the community, so that's where the frustration is. I don't think people are dead set on any one location, it's just, there's a better location to this, why are we not looking at it? I know if you go to social media, which is what it is, but a lot of the people I talk to, they think this is a silly location to put a school. And it's for the same reasons we're talking about. They're not traffic engineers, they've driven these roads at 3:30, and they know what it's gonna be like. It's gonna be a mess.
The locations were decided by that steering committee. The challenge has been finding the secondary location for this particular building.
The original location was,
That's what I mean, those locations were ferreted out in that process.
Correct.
Now the
this
challenge
was
has been finding this secondary
Correct.
location.
Correct.
Okay, well, we'll get a letter drafted and approve it next Tuesday, and we'll get it to you. Go from there. We're trying, Carrie said we should make this a 15-minute per topic, and we just spent 45.
Last time ago.
Pat, you do breakfast?
Give you about 30 minutes, I can wrap that up.
Okay. We'll work on that. I'm glad everybody's concerned about it. And this is, like I said, most of the people in here is going to last 40 years, but a couple of you are going to last longer.
Just a question, should we add the letter to the school people in Columbus?
I think we should, as many people as possible.
Just a question, what you want to do. Not just to the state, like ODOT or whoever, but to the schools.
Schools, highway department.
I'm just asking about what you want.
Casey probably doesn't have anything to read. He might get one.
I can tell you guys, they're gonna tell you it's a local decision.
Oh, I know they do. Exactly right. But you're on record. Yeah, we're not looking for derogatory, we're looking for a letter stating our real.
No, it's not a
It's not a personal thing.
That's no different.
We're excited about a new school, but we're concerned
vicinity, there's gonna be a closure, you know, or they get a letter saying, we're gonna be working in your area, here's what's gonna happen. Then they invite everybody to a public meeting, nobody comes to a public meeting.
He just commented, he wasn't upset.
No, I'm not trying to, I just,
He was just.
we got like, when they closed Miami Street, we got notification.
He seemed to be
They're
caught
gonna
off
reroute, we got
guard with
notification.
closed streets, I think, so there. And he thought it might be a good idea if he was aware of it.
Judges are like that.
Yeah.
But he was nice
That's
about
why.
it. We need something to put on the list.
Yeah, that's a good one. I thought you wanted to train on that street.
Thought you guys came for the meatballs,
The good news is the gas main project is supposed to be done, what, by the end of the year?
They should
roughly?
have all the mains done, they hope by the end of this week, they'll have the service lines finished up soon, then they hope to have all the restoration done, they thought by roughly Thanksgiving.
They're moving,
Yes, they do.
they're moving.
Are they re-blacktopping Court Street?
No, they'll just repair where they dug things up.
Okay, well, now we know that, and we'll make sure that Nick gets notification.
Well, you know, the courthouse.
Yeah. How many officers are still working?
3, 4, 4. County court, Congress, state court, clerk, court. All the courts are up there, all of our court stuff's up there, prosecutor. Coordination.
Okay, moving right along to land bank. We requested that the state came up with the idea about the land bank, and we thought it might be a good way for us to get rid of land and work together, and Doug, did you talk to?
Well, I mean, I know we had some communication back and forth, and I sat through a conference call with the commissioners, several months ago, I guess earlier this summer about it. I think at this time, from what I understood, the county didn't wanna pursue it at this time, but I think part of that was, and the commissioners certainly can speak to this maybe better than I can, but I think part of the goal was there's no need for a land bank until there's until there was a better process at the county level for getting properties into tax foreclosure or through the tax foreclosure process that could potentially at some point forfeit the land bank. And I know recently I've noticed there's quite a few properties that we had here in the city that were pretty heavily tax delinquent, you know, $15,000, $20,000 a parcel type numbers, that the county has started that process on. But I know that was the county treasurer's concern about starting a land bank was, you know, getting properties again through the tax foreclosure process to where they could even be forfeited to a land bank. So I think that was kind of step one. There was some demolition money available for a period of time through the state if a county had a land bank. I think overall, I think we determined that there are, you know, handfuls of properties here and there, but maybe we don't have as much of a demand for that demolition money. I think, in my opinion, going forward, it's something we shouldn't lose sight of, because I think even on some of these tax foreclosures that have been started, you know, you wonder if someone's gonna actually show up and bid on them. I mean, there's one that was advertised there a couple weeks ago. It does, to me, seem like all that feasible of a property for somebody to show up and bid for the unpaid taxes and want anything to do with that property. So, there are a few that maybe they will, but, you know, I guess ultimately we can see how some of these current tax foreclosures end up, and then that might, you know, spell some more discussion around whether or not it makes sense or not, but let you guys speak to it more if you'd
Well,
like.
myself personally, I was in favor of starting, I mean, to me, it seems like a tool that should, it was just a matter of getting it in place. You know, if we put it in place, it's there to use down the road if we need it. But, you know, something, the contention with treasurer and the auditor was that she's got stuff already in place, and I'll give Robin credit, she's a bulldog on collecting these taxes. And, Nick has put somebody in place to help her, and here since the fair, you know, when that girl showed up, they've been, you know, they're going after it, but some of that you're talking about, I can see coming down the road, you can still end up with some properties that, you know, that money went away to tear down houses and stuff. They would like to see, I think, that
down 28 properties or something like that throughout the county and the city. So, you know, we've worked down that number of problem properties that we had before. And right now, we don't have a big number that would be in that category to be able to use a land bank for. But my point was, properties are gonna get to that point over time, you know. Properties get bad, they burn out, you know, for any number of different reasons. You have properties that arrive at that point where they become a problem property, through delinquent taxes or burnouts, or people just walk away from them and they sit there and they're high score. So, you know, that number will increase if there's not another program. The state has allowed counties of all sizes now to participate in the land bank program. In fact, this is the first year that counties our size are able to get into that program and establish a land bank. So, my point was that if the state has provided you with a solution to a problem like that and you don't take advantage of it, then don't come crying to them when you got a problem. You know, that's usually the way it works at the state level. So it seemed to me like it would be a good thing to have in place for the time when you would need it, so you didn't have to try to establish it in the middle of a crisis or some kind of a housing downturn or whatever. You kind of get your feet under you a little bit, or when the next time comes, when we do have a bigger number of problem properties to deal with. We're gonna take another look at it next year. I think Robin, like I say, other smaller sized counties have gotten into this just this year for the first time, and she'll be able to talk to some of those like-sized counties and see how it works for them.
We've even had a couple things come up. This is my first year sitting on the board of revision, and the rookie of it have come up that it would have been beneficial. We could have used that on my Mechanicsburg to funnel, to get that through, you know, where it needs to be. And she's kind of saw that, and you don't foresee some of that till, oh, wow, we could use that. Now that process is coming in, and some of what we ended up with, this is just me, is the housing crisis and everything that happened. I mean, hopefully we don't have that again, but you still are gonna have, like what Steve said, stuff just gonna deteriorate and burn out and walk away, and a certain number, regardless of whether you have a housing crisis. And hopefully they'll come up with another round that we can get in, because the other counties did it.
And it's a relatively new tool. I mean, it's
Right.
been at our disposal for, I think, not even a year, or maybe just over a year, so.
For counties our size.
Yeah, for our counties our size.
Bigger counties have got some experience with them already.
Yep.
And they use the heck out of it. It's a valuable tool for the counties.
So we can look at it in the spring again? Okay.
Mr. Hess, could I back up real quick? Number 2, Bob, who would be the contact? Is it Nick at the courthouse, or should we notify the prosecutor?
Why don't you just notify Andrea?
Andrea, and then she get the word out so that
Take care of it.
if there's gonna be a closure around that area?
Yeah, if there's gonna be a closure.
Just want to get a central person to plug in.
Yeah, call her.
Yeah.
If I do the courthouse, we do the courthouse, then somebody will think they're more important than somebody else.
Well, that's why.
It's better to go down to the office and tell
I
them.
just want to make sure, like, when Tyler gets notification.
We can add her to that discussion list.
Just send it to Andrea and she can go through it.
Just call Merle.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just
Thank you.
call Andrew. That way we won't get into,
Yeah.
well, you called him, why not me?
Yeah.
I'm just
Thank
being
you.
honest.
Yeah. I mean, there's ecos up there?
No.
Okay, moving right along, annexation, Longview and Bancrest.
I can speak to that. This isn't anything imminent, but it's just something to discuss. When Vancrest connected to the city water line, they agreed that they, at some point in the future, would be willing to annex if it was possible under between that we've never approached or discussed, that with them further, if they'd even be interested. But, I think part of the discussion would be, does it make sense for the city to figure out if those property owners are at all interested? If they're not, they're not. If they are, is that something that, we can have further discussion about in the future? Just kind of wanted to throw it out there on the table as something to talk about. But again, there's nothing imminent on that topic, so. But I do know Van Crest, they were very much, when we were meeting with them and working with them, they were very much interested in being in the city. So, that being said, those two users, they do pay the outside rate for water and sewer, they pay double the inside rate being that they're outside the city, so, just throw that out on the table, and any comments around that, that's just.
What do you have? I count about 4 property owners.
I think that's right, I was thinking 3 or 4, yeah, because the Brand property that's behind the commission office is, our county complex is in the city, and there's kind of that fence line in between that starts the next fence line, I guess, over. The fence line that's, north of the dance studio is. Yeah, Oregon's true. Yep. But we haven't approached anybody, it's just if we were to reach out to them and see if they were at all interested,
Well,
They are on a well, I believe, because we didn't have the water line at the time, but they are connected to that sewer line.
so they're paying.
They're paying that too.
So that would be potentially benefit for them, for sure.
On a monthly cost basis, yeah, at least on the sanitary sewer service.
And then you have the tax.
Income tax on the business and that.
I think they'd be outnumbered. There's 4 properties there. You have to approach them before you ever even consider it.
Yeah.
No, Van Crest, it'd be up to Van Crest, because they're privately owned, it'd be that
Yeah.
decision would be them, we don't have anything to say about that. Longview, I assume, out of courtesy, we'd have to ask school board what they are interested in doing, to be honest and fair about it.
Right.
All that agricultural land too, if it's not going to be developable, the farmers normally don't want to be annexed.
They don't.
That'd be a tough sell.
That's on me.
They wouldn't. And I don't know who's got shutters now, who I don't know.
Well, so
Organs.
Oregon,
Oregon.
that's right, Oregon bought that, Fred bought that.
It might just be something to discuss with the ESC and see if there's any interest on their end and, we can talk about it further, but I just wanted to throw that out there that was part of those being approved, but again, it's not anything that's imminent, it's more or less if it made sense for enough property owners to petition as such, so.
Okay, well, when it happens, it'll happen. Maybe not 40 years in some ways. Might take 40 years, but anyway. The sanitary sewer dedication to Rothschild.
I put that on there also, and all that really was is the last time we had talked, maybe over a year ago, at some point, once the certification process is complete for the grant, I think we had talked previously that there would be a resolution of the commissioners and a resolution of council, basically for the city accepting that sewer that was funded with the grant, so that's all really it was, just that we haven't lost sight of that coming up, needing to happen, but I looked in my file today and I started that process, at least a draft last November, and just never got back to it, so I just wanted to share that's something that we'll still have to look at here in the future and facilitate that.
We don't want to be in the sewer business.
We officially dedicate that. We talked about it.
You guys have.
It wasn't very long ago, whenever you're ready to do that, let us know.
Okay.
Do we know where that stands?
It's still pending, they're not ready to certify it, it's still pending.
Okay, well. Bree, did we miss anything?
I think so.
Mayor, glad you could make it.
very conscious effort, didn't I, Amy? This was a council commissioner meeting.
Okay, I never asked Doug because he's, one more thing. Got anything?
I don't have anything.
Steve? Matt, thanks
I'd
for
like to
dinner.
thank the commissioners for coming tonight. This is a good, interesting information. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the food.
And I've got nothing else other than that. I'm good, thanks.
Doug?
Yeah, I think we gotta do it more often.
Well, believe it or not, about 15 years ago, we started this, and we did it every quarter. So,
Yeah, I don't
willing
know
and
what-
able, I don't see why we couldn't do it twice a year to start
Yeah.
with and see what happens. Thank you, Amy, for coming and providing information background. Tony, anything?
I have nothing, but I thank all the commissioners here. Good to
Gene?
hear from you.
Ditto, thanks for dinner, Pat.
Thank you again, Pat.
Yeah, Pat, very good.
Yeah, thanks.
If there's any leftovers, somebody grab it and go.
Thanks for dinner.
You won't chase them.
We need more of this, just because, I mean, there's not, what I've learned is what you guys do is your thing, and what we do is our thing. There's some of the stuff that we need to know what's going on with all this stuff.
It's helpful.
Just to know when you get attacked by somebody.
Here's who you didn't talk to.
Yeah, here's who you
The
didn't talk to.
perfect example is the school issue.
Yeah.
You can understand we're all really on the same page.
Yeah.
You know, unless there's one-on-one communication about that, well, I think we're on the same page. But we know that we are. That's good.
I didn't mean to skip you, Marcia.
No, I'm just glad to be able to be involved in this, and if anybody wants more reports from me, maybe this is the, then do that. As a group.
Fine, thanks for everything,
Okay.
enjoyed it.
We are a small community, there's what, less than 40,000 people in Champaign County?
Just
And,
just say 40.
Yeah.
Nice.
Growing like leaps and bounds used to be 38. There's no reason why we can't do more together. I mean, there's towns that are, Springfield's bigger than we are altogether, so there's no reason we can't work together and make this a hell of a community. All we have to do is talk, so.
I hope we do better in Springfield then.
Let's see if they pass that 4/10 or not.
It's a good county and a good city.
It is. It is. Proud to be here. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Be in touch with that.
What'd you say that CASA was?